And Mitchell, we should be, not the Dodgers, wasn't the Dodgers. And Tommy Herr was traded for Tom Brunansky. Herr was pulled out. We got some great, I'm telling you, this is the greatest chat room you've ever been in. If you're listening on YouTunes, iTunes, Looney Tunes, whatever tunes you're listening on, you got to come to the chat room. I mean, come on. We're losing the thing that baseball and sports are fun in this country. Can't be all just gambling. It just can't be. Okay? We got to, and you won't have more fun anywhere else than here and the Arizona Fall League. And if you want to go to the Arizona Fall League this year, start thinking about it and let me know, because we're going to have a fantastic time in the Arizona Fall League this year. Okay? So on to the next thing. If you didn't hear about it, I made some great moves in our excuse me, in our American League only league that we had the pleasure of drafting. I picked up at the end 2 players, Taijuan Walker and Cameron Maybin. Now, if they didn't sign with the American League, I could not use them. But they did. They did. Okay? So the last time Taijuan Walker set foot in the Mariners spring training clubhouse was around 2016. But he was back. Mariners announced Wednesday that Walker had signed a 1-year contract. So, okay, what does this mean? Okay? They expect Taijuan Walker to be in the rotation. They expect Marco Gonzalez, UC Kikuchi, Kendall Graveman, Justice Sheffield, and Taijuan Walker. And that's what they're expecting. So there were rumors that Walker might throw in front of office executives, and he did. And Seattle was Seattle was comfortable. The reunion has been talked about for months, and let's see what happens. He was once the prize prospect for the Mariners, the big 3. Remember the big 3 for the Mariners? It was James Paxton, now with the Yankees. Walker's now 27 and is a year away from free agency. But it was James Paxton. Danny Hultzen was the other one. He's still hanging around. And Taijuan Walker. He made his major league debut in 2013, and then he was traded along with Ketel Marte to the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2016. So there you go. So despite the fact that he hasn't really pitched in the last 2 seasons, Seattle felt he was a solid, low investment, and I'll say the same thing, especially in an American League only. Okay? Interesting to see how they handle Walker and Graveman. Graveman had Tommy John surgery in 2018. So there you go. Now, here's the big story. And before I get to my favorite player of all... Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll get to my favorite player of all... No, I won't. Okay? Let's talk about some prospects. And let's talk about the biggest prospect. The biggest prospect could be coming up this year. Could be. And who am I talking about? What am I talking about is much more relevant than who am I talking about. But what am I talking about? Wander Franco, who has done some amazing things on the baseball field. In just 2 seasons in the low minors, he has been knighted the game's top overall prospect, and he always wanted to be in the majors as a teenager, which would mean at the end of this season, and some think it's hard to believe, but others think that it's not. I read a piece where Eric Neander, who was the Rays general manager, said a lot of what you'd expect about focusing on Franco's long-term and overall development, making sure they do what's best for the switch-hitting shortstop and not forcing anything by rushing him. But then he says, and I quote, "If he picks up where he left off last year, I don't know where that will lead, but it's conceivable to think there's a conversation to be had about bringing him up deep into this season." He turns 19 on March 1st. He started 2 Class A levels in 2019, and he hit .327 with 9 homers, 53 RBIs, and 18 steals. So he has shown advanced back-to-ball skills. He walked, this is the key, he walked 56 times and struck out only 35 times. That, believe it or not, we know about everything else, but we don't know about his maturity and his patience and everything else. So it's possible that Ed Caprio could be here, and yes, he is. Eddie Caprio. Good morning, Eddie, from the great state of Florida. We're going to be down there. Maybe we'll see you. All right, now, according to George, now Jared Kelenic is good, okay? He's a former Met. Brandon Rogers. So let's talk about Brandon Rogers, okay? All right, let's talk about Brandon Rogers. He's throwing from 120 feet. That's according to George. I'll give you just a little bit more. Not much more, but just a little bit more. As far as Rogers is concerned, so every day he does his rehab. He's recovering from major shoulder surgery. He's now throwing from 120 feet, and he can put a full swing on the baseball, full swing. And Bud Black doesn't expect Rogers to play in the majors until May. So that could open up a door for Ryan McMahon. Okay? And Hampson is in the mix, but it could mean that Rogers will start the season on the 60-day injured list. Now, I said the other day, as we talked about this team, that Rogers is the guy that they want to play second base. Okay? All right, so there you go. He's 23. He made his big league debut last year. He played 25 games, but then had a pain in his shoulder. He hit only .224 in 25 games for the Rockies, okay? But he did hit .350 with 9 homers and 21 RBIs for AAA. So there you go. So Rogers will open up the door for McMahon or Hampson to be at second base. And there you go. And also, a little other note, Daniel Murphy, by the way, reported to camp. He's been working out. Murphy, 35. His defense at times was not great, but he's 35. He's going to try to improve on what he did last year when he hit .279. Okay, here's another thing, promising news. We talked about this once before, but it's been revisited by Bob Melvin and General Manager David Frost. A.J. Puck, Jesus Luzardo, and Sean Manaea. I think this is the best 3 young combination in Major League Baseball in terms of pitching. They're all returning from an injury-plagued 2019, and they're not currently expected to be on an innings limit. But be careful with that, because their workload will be very closely watched. So, we'll say monitored, all right? Monitored. Okay, there's no reason to create hard guidelines. They got to see how it goes. A very solid approach on these 3 guys. Now, James Caprillion, former Yankee, Dalton Jeffries, Daniel Gossett spent 2019, he had Tommy John surgery. His role for 2020 is not identified. Chris Bassett is the clear first option to be the swingman. He had a pretty good showing in the Arizona Fall League, but Gossett is in Arizona trying to get himself ready. He's 27. He's back in the fold. And by the way, if you didn't see, Daniel Menken is going to be out for a while. All right. Let's go to the. We talked about yesterday. We talked about the PECOTA standings, and before we get to the San Diego Padres, in the American League, they got the Yankees on top, Tampa second, Boston third, with 84 wins. So they've got Boston ahead of Toronto, and Toronto with 76 wins. This is by PECOTA, and once again, PECOTA, 1,000 simulated games. They take an average of what they get, and that's what they get. The Yankees with 99 wins, Tampa with 87, Boston with 84. And when you take a look at that Boston lineup, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with Sean Bradley. And last night we had the privilege of being on the podcast by the were on the podcast last night. I'm forgetting everybody's name right now, but he's in the chat room. Andy, help me out there. Who's What's we were on a podcast together. Boy, I'm really off my rocker. I was going to have somebody else do the show today, because when you do this every morning and you prepare for the length of time that I prepare for, that's right, King Hap, the happy hour. Oh my God, I'm sorry, but that's it. Frankie Montas is also in that mix. You're right, guys. You're absolutely right. No love from Montas. So yeah, we were on talking about the Red Sox last night. King Hap does a great job, and yes, King Hap will now be part of our radio network. There you go. I don't care if I forgot your name. All right. Let me tell you, today I feel senile. I can't wait to do that. I get up. I was going to ask, Kevin if he wanted to do the 9 o'clock. Sometimes I do that. And then all of a sudden I can't. I just can't. I can't let go. But today, obviously, not one of the greatest days of my career. But that's okay. All right. So King Hap, great job last night. We spent a little time talking about the you put a link to the show in the chat room if you can. Let everybody listen. It's on my Facebook page as well. Don't forget the draft guide. So many of you have done what I hope for, and that is buy the draft guide. Ohio Angel fans is here, so I thank you all, SP fans. I thank everybody who's bought the draft guide. We love your comments so far. Rave reviews. I'll tell you what, I am so proud of my Andrea. Unbelievable. Okay, moving right along. We'll talk about Pacoda as we're doing now. In the Central, they got the Minnesota Twins up there with 93 wins. Cleveland at 86. The White Sox at 82, and then followed by Detroit and Kansas City. In the American League West, we've got the Astros on top with 98 wins. You got the Angels second, Oakland third, Texas fourth, and Texas is moving up. I think Texas has a chance to knock out the Houston Astros. I really believe that Texas has a chance to knock out the Astros, okay? So I would really, we'll see about that. Now, Texas, has anybody think that the Astros are a lock this year? Is anybody really confident that this year the Houston Astros are going to be the win? Now, Texas, by the way, I don't know what their over-under is. I forgot we talked about that yesterday. But the Texas to win the American League, they are 20-1. Is the Texas Rangers? I think Texas has a shot to beat the Astros. The Astros have a 9:30 scheduled news conference tomorrow, press conference, and it's going to be all about. Just doing the right thing and talking about what they did, what they didn't do, and apologize. And that's what it is for the Astros, okay? Now, let's talk about Cameron Maybin for a minute. You know, I took Taiwan Walker, and I also took Cameron Maybin, and now Cameron Maybin in Detroit. I got to tell you, I am very happy to hear that Cameron Maybin is in Detroit, and he's going to be playing... Cameron Maybin has a deal with the Tigers, $1.5 million guaranteed. He can make $2.5 million with bonuses, and there's a hole in right field. A hole. He's at 32. He's a .256 lifetime hitter. I'm going to tell you, in 13 seasons, Cameron Maybin, 2016 he had .315. Remember that? Maybin figures to arrive in camp as the clear-cut favorite to play right field. Right? Clear-cut. Jacoby Jones is out there, but Cameron Maybin could be the best pick. All right? And you need stolen bases, and you got to wonder, where is Yasiel Puig? Where is the fans in Cleveland, in Detroit, they wanted Yasiel Puig. So for Cameron Maybin, it's his third time with the Detroit Tigers. Third time. And don't forget, yeah, third time with the Detroit Tigers. So I just wanted you to have that one. All right, let's get up to par now with the